God exists are two words that make scientists feel a little uncomfortable. They think God's deities and other omnipresent immortals have no place in science, and that the universe is best explained by physics, not a big guy with a beard. But they have a problem. So far, despite their best endeavours, physicists and cosmologists have failed to rule out the possibility of a divine creator by proving that he, she, or it isn't real. Far from it. In fact, every time they try, God refuses to budge, and in some cases only gets stronger. Compared to non-religious explanations as to how life, the universe, and everything came into being, God isn't even that unscientific an idea. The notion of an intelligent designer fits fairly neatly into the colourful bouquet of concepts on offer that explain how reality happened. So what is the scientific argument for God? What are the alternatives? And are these any more realistic than the simple belief in the big man upstairs? Complexity. Here's the heart of the issue. The universe is a wondrous place, full of fantastical interactions and stunning patterns, all happening at staggering scale over a timescale of billions of years. It is fantastically complex, mind-bendingly big, and inconceivably old. And yet it works perfectly. A grand cosmological carnival where everything from here to eternity happens in Goldilocks-style synchronicity. Our universe is precise as it is vast. The various forces governing its behaviour, the gravitational constant, the strength of electromagnetism, the mass of elementary particles and so on, are perfectly fine-tuned. And they have to be. A small adjustment to these values would stop the emergence of complex structures such as stars, planets and people. From gravity, without which nothing would have come together after the Big Bang, to electromagnetism, which enables chemistry, existence chimes precisely and consistently, never missing a beat. The question for science is, how does such pure perfection happen? And can it really just be random? In his book, Just Six Numbers, Sir Martin Rees explains how a handful of numerical values control what happens in the universe. There's no need to go into great depth about them here, but they include n, which is the ratio of the electromagnetic force to the gravitational force between a pair of protons. The value of n is 10 to the power of 36. If it was 10 to the power of 34, say, then stars would die younger, robbing planets like Earth of sufficient time to develop living organisms. Lambda is the force controlling the speed at which the universe expands. Without it, galaxies just wouldn't form. First hypothesized by Albert Einstein in 1917, lambda, also known as the cosmological constant, is fine-tuned to a factor of 120 decimal places. Change it by even a trillionth of a percent, and you no longer have a universe. All you get is swirly nonsense. Other mathematical values with names like d or omega or q are equally precise and equally essential to the nature of reality. The point of all this is that the universe is put together with precision beyond our comprehension, the sort that would make a Swiss watchmaker look like a baby trying to feed itself. It is perfect, and only by being perfect can it exist. The slightest defect, the merest change, and nothing substantial would ever have happened. The observable universe, all 93 billion light years of it, would never have made it out of the starting blocks. And yet, here we all are. Multiverse. Diehards argue that all this fine-tuning is nothing more than a coincidence, a mathematical quirk framed during the universe's first phase. Others say that our existence and the extreme fine-tuning of the universe are somehow related. In other words, that existence comes as standard when something so marvellous is created. Many besides, perhaps understandably, find both of these notions hard to swallow. But if you accept that neither astronomical chance nor the benevolence of nature is responsible for the universe's existence, then there's only one alternative. And it's God. Only an infinitely powerful and intelligent being would be capable of making the universe tick along so exactingly. This is the impasse that the scientific community has come up against for thousands of years, despite them straining every sinew to create a new explanation, one that simultaneously rationalises the precision and removes the need for an intelligent designer. The best explanation they have come up with is that our universe is not unique. There are in fact many universes, each with their own set of numbers and values. In the overwhelming majority of these, the numbers don't stack up, making them barren and sterile places, no good to anyone. But given enough attempts to create the right conditions for existence, say trillions and trillions of goes, it's not just possible, but likely that a Goldilocks universe like ours will appear at some point. And all this is proof of that. This is the concept of the multiverse, and it's pretty weird. To work, it requires a colossal, perhaps even infinite number of universes to have been created side by side. Secondly, it's impossible to prove, either by observation or via mathematics. Thirdly, it arguably raises more questions than it answers. For example, are we the only universe in which life is developed, or are there many? Are they all the same, or have some developed less ideal versions of our perfect circumstances? Or are there versions of existence that are even more perfect than our own? Or are we just a mid-tier universe, and elsewhere beings exist so advanced that they would side-eye us in embarrassment if we ever managed to get in contact with them? Most difficult of all, the multiverse doesn't completely rule out God. If a big beardy man can create one universe, then why not loads? We appear to be back at square one. Simulation. Throughout our evolution, humans have become more intelligent. Perhaps not as clever as our equivalents in the multiverse, but whatever. The point is, we're smarter than we were 100 years ago, and much smarter than we were 1,000 years ago. And there's no reason to believe that this is the end of our learning curve. Speaking optimistically, humanity might have billions of years left in the tank, giving us ample opportunity to grow our knowledge and apply it to improve the way we live. It could be that humanity's descendants who witnessed the dying of our sun will be very advanced indeed. So advanced, in fact, that they will probably have ceased to be human at all, evolving into a better animal, the same way we left our ape friends behind via evolution. In fact, if our descendants manage to avoid extinction and make it all the way to the death of the solar system, they will be as unlike us as we are unlike the first bacteria that spawned on planet Earth 3 billion years ago. What's this all got to do with divinity, I hear you ask? Well, it's possible that our true God is an advanced version of ourselves, or more accurately, their technology. While humans evolve at a steady clip, computers have upgraded at warp speed. It was only 200 years ago that Charles Babbage created his difference engine, a calculator, and soon after, with the help of Ada Lovelace, launched the first proper computer, the analytical engine. A cosmic blink of an eye later, and we have neural networks and machine learning verging on self-awareness. Imagine what the next 200 years will bring, or the next 2,000 years, or the next 2 million years. By mixing virtual reality with artificial intelligence, humans are already capable of creating realistic worlds. It's hardly a leap of faith, then, to believe that in the fullness of time, we'll be able to create a functioning virtual planet, complete with populations of fake people who think they're real. This might sound like a morally dubious step for us to take, but let's be honest, we rarely let that stand in our way. In this scenario, where people exist as mere simulations, God would be the coder, or whatever passes for a coder in future, who created their program. The characters in the simulation would be completely oblivious to the fact that they are synthetic digital representations, and not the genuine article. They would live out normal lives, Truman Show style, with real ambitions, hopes and fears, responsibilities, relationships, likes and dislikes. They would eat simulated food when they feel simulated hunger, care about simulated causes, and argue over simulated talking points. They'd celebrate the virtual good times, mourn the bad times, and experience the full spectrum of human emotion. They wouldn't know their God, but they would have developed theories about the nature of existence and the identity of their creator. They'd think about these things, maybe even talking about them on tiny synthetic YouTube channels, hoping synthetic viewers don't click away. This is simulation theory, the idea that humanity is a repeating virtual cycle of evolution, which always culminates in the development of a new version of itself. If this is true, then only the people who went first are real, becoming God to all the fake versions that come afterwards. The theoretical physicist Nick Bostrom is a major champion of simulation theory, but he is far from alone. In 2016, Elon Musk told a conference that the chances of you and me existing in the base reality is 1 in billions. Melvin Vopson, a physics professor at the University of Portsmouth in England, is completely convinced of this too. He argues that evidence for simulation is everywhere, from the abundance of symmetry in nature to the fact that subatomic particles look quite a lot like pixels. Once again, the weirdness of physics has added dimensions to the debate, not least through a little understood quirk of science called quantum entanglement, which Vopson says is a very computer-like phenomenon. He told the Daily Mail newspaper, "Quantum entanglement allows two particles to be spookily connected so that if you manipulate one, you automatically and immediately also manipulate the other, no matter how far apart they are, with the effect being seemingly faster than the speed of light, which should be impossible. Albert Einstein called it spooky action at a distance, which is a pretty cool description. It sounds like science fiction, but Professor Vopson says it makes perfect sense if both particles are virtual and the information underpinning them is located on a single centralised processor. And if you think that's a weird idea, then I'm afraid it's downhill from here. Solipsism. Championed by philosophers like René Descartes and George Berkeley, solipsism is essentially a deep investigation into what is 100% knowable. Sometimes referred to as systematic doubt, it seeks to establish a firm foundation for knowledge by setting aside everything that cannot be guaranteed, and then building up from there. When Descartes did it back in the 17th century, he dismissed incoming data from his senses, all of which can be manipulated, and for the same reason, everything he had ever learned or been told to suppose about the world around him. Having hacked through this conventional wisdom, he was left with very little solid truth, but he argued that he existed because he was thinking, and his thoughts had a sort of tangible value. This was the essence of the famous conclusion, I think, therefore I am. The simple meaning of the phrase is that if one is skeptical of existence, that is in and of itself proof that he does exist. Critics of this idea argue he could probably go a step further by stripping away the notion of self. There is a thinker because there is a thought. But if we agree that all we can be sure of is that there is a thinker, then God is banished completely, leaving behind nothing more than a random consciousness like a brain in a jar, except without the brain and without the jar. This excessively strange concept doesn't help us in our search for God, because all it does is remove accepted wisdom without replacing it with anything. Descartes himself attempted to reintroduce God with a semantic argument. He said that God is perfect, and anything that is perfect must exist because existence is a necessary component of perfection. But this isn't any good either, because if a perfect God exists, then so must a perfect elf, or a perfect unicorn. So Descartes failed both to prove and disprove God, and his main contribution to the furthering of human understanding can be summed up in the following sentence. Anything could be true, but we just don't know for sure. Small gods. There are lots of theories about the origins of the universe and God's place in the timeline, so here are just a handful of the less often cited ones. The anthropic principle states that the universe's properties must be compatible with the existence of observers, such as humans, because observers can only exist in a universe that is conducive to their existence. Got it? Good. This notion takes care of the fine-tuning observed in our universe, suggesting that God is really just a coincidence of nature. The many worlds interpretation is an extension of the multiverse theory, suggesting that every event results in the creation of multiple parallel universes, each representing a different outcome of that event. This interpretation implies the existence of a vast number of parallel universes, with new ones branching off with every quantum interaction. This is related to the notion of cosmic inflation, which states that rapid expansion could lead to the spontaneous creation of pocket universes within a larger multiverse. The holographic universe theory suggests that our perception of a three-dimensional reality might be an illusion, with the real information encoded on a lower dimensional surface. A way to visualize this concept is through the analogy of a TV or phone screen. The images and sounds you're watching now seem three-dimensional, but they're actually being displayed on a two-dimensional surface. What God would be in this case is frankly beyond my pay grade. Theories in the comments, please. All of the above ideas are speculative and highly conceptual with zero basis in empirical proof, which kind of makes a mockery of any attempt to prove or disprove the notion of a God. We don't know, and there's currently no way of finding out, so that's that. It's possible that we'll come to know in the fullness of time, perhaps when we create a perfect simulation of ourselves, or when we manage to peer beyond the borders of the known universe. But until then, what you believe is up to you. God could be anything from Mother Nature herself to a spotty computer programmer from Slough in the year 3056. So worship away, my friends. Discuss your ideas nicely in the comments. Like, subscribe, share, and most importantly, thank you for watching.